But I was thinking in terms of what's relevant to being a consultant, and to be a consultant, you really have to be open-minded and have knowledge in a lot of industries. So that's what I wanted to show off here. In 2017, I was an average student with a 2.9 GPA and no relevant experience. But I had one goal: get a job in consulting. I had one semester left before graduating, and so I started my job search. Thanks to a couple of years of being rejected from every company possible, I found the resume formula to differentiate myself for competitive jobs like consulting at competitive firms. And this CV formula got me a job at PwC, but also gave me interviews at Deloitte, KPMG, and IBM, to name a few. If you don't know me, my name is Matty Caffey. I'm a career coach and IT consultant, helping you land more interviews and land that specific job that you need to have a successful career. In this YouTube channel, we talk about career advice, job search, consulting, and resume tips, just like in this video. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe and like this video. So let's start. So the question is, what is that resume formula I was talking about that got me all those results? In this video, I will show you the exact resume that I used that got me into PwC and got me all those interviews I was talking about. You will also learn how to use the exact resume and the resume tips to land interviews for yourself, but also understand what big firms like PwC and others want to see in a resume. And bonus tips, if you stay until the end of the video, I will show you the exact resources and templates you can download for free to get you started. Also, since I'm a career coach right now and I know a lot more about resume and job search than 3 years ago, I will also tell you what I would change, because companies are evolving, so your resume should too. So this is the exact resume that I sent to PwC. I haven't changed a single thing. I would just blur my email for obvious reasons, but all the other information that you're seeing right now are intact, so I didn't change anything. So let's talk about the template and the length of my resume before moving on to the content itself. So your resume template is all about aesthetics and the different sections that you want to include. The rule is you don't want to overwhelm HR managers, because remember, they will take around like 6 seconds reading your resume. So you want to put all the relevant information at the top of your resume and not overwhelm them with information. So that's why a good template will have good sections that will sell you at every step of your resume. And that's why I'm using the education, professional experience, achievements and extracurriculars, and skills and interests. Some of you guys might have volunteering as a section. That may be good. I didn't have any, so I didn't include one. But remember, you just want to include relevant information that sells your experience. One thing I would add though is a summary here. So just before my education, just because from my experience working with clients for the last 3 years and talking with HRs and recruiters, they like seeing a summary, because as I said, HR managers won't read the whole resume, right? They will take just 6 seconds, and they like reading a summary of all your achievements and results. And then if they find that interesting, they will take some more time to read your whole resume. And it's great, right? Because if you have a summary with 3 to 4 bullet points, you can just sell yourself and say why you're a great candidate, so to just incentivize the person to read the rest of your resume. Next, I want to talk about the length of my resume. So it's just 1 page, just because I don't call myself a top student with like 1,000 extracurriculars and a lot of experience. So 1 page was enough for me, and it's probably enough for you as well, because as a student, you will have limited opportunities in your professional experience and even in your achievements and extracurriculars. And even if you have a lot, chances are you will repeat yourself, because you will not have, I don't know, like 10 experiences in 10 different industries. Maybe you will have the same job over and over again. So think a lot about what you want to include in your resume, because if you repeat yourself, or if you say that you have the same skills or that you have the same achievements throughout all your resume, it won't sell you enough, right? And you won't get the interview. So you really want to include only the information that sells a specific skill or a specific achievement. The exception is maybe computer science majors, maybe software engineers, maybe those creative majors, right? Who will have maybe more projects to show off, and all those projects will sell a specific skill. So maybe they can go over 1 page, but for most students, I would recommend staying at 1 page resume, just because most of the time HR managers won't even bother reading the second one. It will be just a waste of opportunity for you. So the question is, if you have a 1 page resume and the right sections, are you gonna land all the interviews that you want? And the answer obviously is no, right? You need more than that. You need your content to be top notch. So let's go over the content of my resume. We'll go over each section and I'll tell you what I would add, why I wrote what I wrote to impress HR managers. So listen carefully in this section because you will need the exact same tips and the exact same mindset if you want to impress HR managers and recruiters as well. So I want you to keep in mind one thing. I wasn't a good student, right? So I mentioned it at the beginning of the video and in my other videos as well. I had a terrible GPA. I didn't have any relevant experience related to consulting, even if it was my dream job, right? So my only goal was to differentiate myself. I just wanted to say, hey, I'm different from my peers, right? Maybe they have a 4.0 GPA. Maybe they have 3 internships at big firms, right? But I'm different from them. Here's why, and here's why you should call me for the interview. So keep that in mind when we go over my content. So let's start with my education section. So here I just wrote the name of my university, my bachelor, and the major as well that I underlined here, just because not a lot of people who were like in commerce and business chose this major. So that's my first opportunity to differentiate myself. Most people will have a finance major or accounting major. I wanted to show off that I was an information systems major, and that helped me a lot, by the way, when I was applying to IT consulting positions. So that may be like an obvious one, but like I said, I took all the opportunities that I wanted or that I had to differentiate myself. The second one is my international exchange program, and that was a big one for me because not a lot of students actually have that kind of experience. And just by reading that, companies and HR managers can assume a lot of things about me. They can assume that I'm organized, I'm autonomous. I had to be comfortable in an uncomfortable position, so I was in a new country with new people, with a new system of education, right? So just by reading that international exchange program, they can assume a lot of things about me that are relevant to being a consultant, because as a consultant, you have to travel a lot, you have to meet new clients every time, you have to be comfortable even if other people around you are weird, I guess. So that international exchange program was really huge for me. But the question is, if you don't have an exchange program, are you doomed? And no, the answer is no, right? You don't need an exchange program to impress HR managers. The important thing in your education section is really to put the things that you think other people won't have. Do you have any awards? Did you have a good GPA? If you had a good GPA, you can include it here. Did you participate in any competitions that are relevant? Did you have any interesting projects? We'll talk about projects a little on in the video, but you just want to include anything that you think other students didn't have. And if you can't think of anything else, don't worry about that because it's not the best section to differentiate yourself anyway, but you don't want to miss any opportunities to do so. So let's move on to the professional experience now. So before you become impressed, I don't even know if you're impressed right now reading that, but I just want to tell you that 3 out of those 4 experiences are actually student part-time jobs that required no relevant skills to get in, right? So just to show you how you explain your experiences, how you show off your skills can really impact how people perceive you when they read your resume. So here, I just wanted to show off that I had experience in diverse industries, like 4 industries in 4 experiences. So finance, tech, maybe retail, like food and beverage, and here, let's say like aviation, I guess, engineering. Some of you might say that I exaggerate things, right? Saying that I'm showing off industries, but I was thinking in terms of what's relevant to being a consultant, and to be a consultant, you really have to be open-minded and have knowledge in a lot of industries, so that's what I wanted to show off here. I made sure as well to show off brands that are well-known, so for example, Tangerine here, which is a well-known bank here in Canada, HP, we all know it, Nespresso, and also Bombardier, who's a plane builder, I guess, so I don't know how we call it. And this is super important because even if my jobs weren't that impressive, so I was working in sales and customer service, just having those names in my resume will have a higher perceived value. So people reading my resume will give me more importance, more value than someone else who maybe didn't have well-known brands in their resume, right? So I wanted to use that at my advantage. Notice how I called my jobs. So financial service representative, research assistant, HP representative, and Nespresso sales specialist. So that's something else, right? Because in my contract, if you saw my contract at Tangerine, at Bombardier, at Mosaic, Match Marketing, you won't see those exact job titles because those contracts are pretty boring, right? They will just say what your general duty is. So for example, sales or customer service, but that's not enough to impress people in resumes. So what I did was pinpoint the relevant skills that I learned in that specific experience and put it in my job title so that people understand what I was actually doing. So for example, here at Tangerine, I was selling bank accounts, right? And bank plans. So I called myself a financial service representative, right? Because that was the exact job I was doing. Here at Bombardier, I was not even employed by Bombardier itself. I was employed by a private consultant who worked for Bombardier. But all my projects, all my duties were related to Bombardier. So I put Bombardier in my resume, right? And even if they call them, even if they do background check, it's not lying, it's just telling people exactly what I've done, not exactly what's written in my contract of employment, right? And I was a research assistant just because I was assisting that private consultant and I was doing research for him so that we make compelling presentations. Next, here, I was not employed by HP, right? I was employed by the third-party marketing company called Mosaic North America, but I was trained by HP employees. I was trained in HP products, right? That's why I called myself an HP representative. I was selling HP products, and the same thing with Match Marketing. It's a third-party marketing company, but I was trained and I was collaborating with Nespresso employees, right? So I called myself a Nespresso sales specialist. What I'm telling you is, even if your job seems like boring, right? There is always a way you can find to turn it around and just to show off just the cool part of that job, right? So for example, at Nespresso, most of my shifts was just cleaning Nespresso machines. Do you see anywhere that I wrote that I'm cleaning Nespresso machines, right? No, because even if like, I don't know, like 40% of my time was doing that, I would focus just on that 30 or 40% of my time where I was selling Nespresso machines, where I was collaborating with people, where I was training employees, where I was learning new stuff, right? And I would just take that 30% and make it 100% in my resume. And that's what tailoring your resume is, right? You just want to take the relevant stuff and show it off in your resume to make that best first impression possible. And how do you do this really? You have to have your dream job in mind. So in consulting, if you saw my other video, I made a list of all the skills that I needed as a consultant, like sales, customer service, maybe presentation skills, right? And so I just took all those skills and I tried to incorporate them in my resume. So you want to do the same thing for you. Now, showing those relevant experience and showing those skills is good, right? But if you want to go the extra mile and really prove that you have the skills that you say you have, for example, I'm good at sales, right? How do I know? It's through your bullet points. And so let's go over the bullet points that I wrote here. And I think that's the biggest part that I would change in my resume, just because I feel that most of them are not that powerful. So listen carefully if you want to create powerful bullet points to impress HR managers. Like I said, showing off your skills is not enough. You have to provide relevant examples. So let's start with my financial service representative job at Tangerine. Look at the first one. Maintain overall appearance and presentation of the mobile pop-up location to exceed client expectations. So what? I don't care that you maintained overall appearance, right? It doesn't tell me anything about you or about your results or about your skills, right? So that's something that I would change or I would just remove from my resume, just because it doesn't sell anything. And you want to be heartless like that when you write your resume. If you write a information and there's no result, there's no achievements, there's nothing after it, right? You have to remove it or improve it, right? I want to show you a good example of a good bullet point. So let's say this one here. So manage inventory throughout Best Buy stores in Quebec, ensuring everything is in stock and reduced lost opportunities by 45%, right? So just by reading that, people can assume that I know how to manage inventory, I know how to deal with employees and with different stores, right? So I have communication skills and I reduced lost opportunities by 45%, meaning that I won more money to this company, right? And I made sure to mitigate risk. In just a couple of words, you can assume a lot about me, and that's exactly what you want to do in your bullet points. Just by reading a couple of words, I can assume that, I don't know, you have sales skills, that you know how to increase sales, that you know that exact specific subject, for example. Like usual, use the STAR method or CAR method. So I'll put it on screen. So the CAR method is just challenge, action, and then result, or the STAR method, it's a bit the same thing, right? Situation, task, action, and then the results. You want to create your sentences or your bullet points that way, just because you will give the context needed for companies to understand how you did the actions, how did you learn something, and how did you improve your department or your companies throughout this action. Another example is increased sales by 30% in 3 different stores and was awarded bestseller for 3 consecutive months. So I can assume that I'm a good salesperson, increased sales, so I'm able to understand the product and to understand persuasion and how to sell it to a customer. Something else just here, analyzed and populated a database for all US states and Canadian provinces covering the driver license regulations, course duration and cost. So this one is not good. Sorry for taking this example. I say that I analyzed and populated a database, and so what? No achievements, we have no results. So that's a good example of a bad bullet point. Just because I'm saying I'm doing stuff, I don't have any results, right? Companies don't care about what I've done in my past jobs. They really don't care. They think about themselves. They think about what I can do for them, right? So you want to show off that in your resume. A good example, I think, is here. Created PowerPoint presentations showing the different driver regulations between several states to help visualize the data found, leading to better marketing strategies. Here's a good bullet point because, okay, I show off that I can create PowerPoint presentations, I can show off that I analyzed different states and that I extracted the relevant information and put it in a presentation. So that's really good for consulting. But I also helped visualize the data found leading to better marketing strategies. So because of that presentation, maybe Bombardier had better insight to better target or market their products in the US. So that's exactly what I was talking about. This is a good example and it follows the STAR method as well. Let's move on to the achievement and extracurricular now. So the same principles that I talked about in my professional experience applies to the achievement and extracurricular, meaning you have to show off just the things that are relevant for you. You have to show off specific skills that the job you want needs, right? And also using the STAR method and CAR method in your bullet points. So everything applies to the achievements and extracurriculars as well. So how do you choose them really? That's important. You don't want to repeat existing skills that you already explained in your resume. So in my resume, I already explained that I know customer service, sales, presentations, right? I don't want to repeat that in the extracurriculars, right? I have space in my resume. I need to use that real estate to sell additional skills. So for example, I used my Amazon e-commerce business. I never talked about that in a video. So let me know in the comment section if you want a separate video on just this subject, because it helped me land a lot of interviews actually. I chose that because I was doing that in my university time, just because I wanted to try out some projects on the side. So that was actually really good because it showed that I know social media marketing, like e-commerce, Google Ads. I knew how to communicate with suppliers, how to actually sell stuff online. So those are all another skill set that people can discover about me just because I added that experience. And then, so I think a lot of you guys had any like sports team in high school, maybe or in university. So you can include that as well, because sports is good because it just shows off that you have teamwork, maybe leadership, maybe organizations, right? Or discipline because of the practice. So I included that as well. And it was great because many people talked about it in the interview stage. So I won't analyze the bullets. I think the Amazon bullets are great, like develop an online retail business with over $2,000 per month in sales, responsible for negotiation with Chinese suppliers, blah, blah, blah. So I think those are pretty good because I'm using metrics. Oh, by the way, I forgot about that. So you want to use as many metrics as possible just because it helps the HR manager or the person reading your resume imagine what you're doing really and imagine the exact achievements that you've done. So when I say that I manage an inventory of 900 units, you can actually imagine like 900 units and I'm managing it, right? But if you say just I'm managing units, it's pretty broad in my head, right? So you want to be specific. So try adding metrics when possible. So let's move on to the last section. So the skills and interest section. So I think that this section is so underestimated because I reviewed a lot of resumes, right, with my clients, and most of them will not have that section just because they think that it's not relevant. Let me prove you that it's relevant. Here in the skills section, you want to include all the skills that you didn't have space to include in your resume, right? Because remember at the beginning of the video, I said that just saying that you have sales skills is not enough. You want to provide a specific example to show off you have that skills, right? But most of the time, you will not be able to include that keyword like sales, for example, inside the bullet point, right? For ATS purposes and for people to really understand and tie your skills to those exact bullet points, you want to include them in the skills and interest section. So here in computer skills, I say business analytics, Photoshop, Illustrator, Final Cut Pro, BI. Those are all keywords that are relevant for the job that I wanted, but that I couldn't include in my bullet points. Here, the only modification I would do is remove Microsoft Office just because it doesn't differentiate myself from others. And don't forget, your aim is to differentiate yourself from others, so you don't want to put information that are quite obvious. The second thing that I would change is being more specific in my interest section. The interest section is great because it humanizes your CV. Your CV is a boring document, let's face it. It's boring to read it. It's like bullet points with just achievements. The interest section is great because it will prove that you have personality and that it's a human being behind it. Sports, technology, innovation, and travel. And those are great subjects because sometimes HR managers will be biased and they will call you just because, I don't know, they're fans of the same team, let's say. But to do that, you have to be specific. That's what I would change. So sports, I would say that my favorite team is Real Madrid. Technology, maybe I would say that I'm passionate about like BI. I'm not passionate about BI anymore, but I was. Maybe innovation, all the new technologies, and travel, maybe adding my favorite destination, which is Los Angeles, by the way, if you didn't know. Languages, well, it's pretty straightforward, so I won't say anything about that. That's it for my resume, right? Right now, I just showed you my CV, but simply copy pasting it won't get you the interview, and I'm gonna tell you why. If you're going after competitive jobs like consulting at competitive firms like PwC or the other big four, you need a strategy, and especially if you don't have good grades, because those firms actually ask for your transcripts most of the time, right? Or if you don't have relevant experience that tie directly to the job you want, right? So if you didn't have any internship in consulting or part-time jobs in consulting, you will struggle a little bit more than others. So that's why you need a specific strategy. And that strategy is to focus on what's different about you. You've seen it with your own eyes, right? I didn't work at NASA. I didn't have a 4.0 GPA. I didn't have 10 competitive competitions in consulting and I won like first place. No, I was just an average student, right? I was just playing PS4 and having part-time jobs, right? But I was strategic in my job search. I simply did my best to position myself like the solution for companies and just saying why you should give me a chance because I'm different from all the other guys out there. As the saying goes, different is better than better. If you want to learn how to differentiate yourself and get the interviews that you want, just like I did 3 years ago, you will want to take a look at my landing a job guide in the description. There I go over the templates and also the step-by-step process on how to write each section that you just saw in my resume to make yourself as compelling as possible for companies, positioning yourself as the one and best solution for those companies to get hired. And so if you want to know more about it, you can download the free guide in the description. Make sure you hit the like button. It will help this channel tremendously. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe so that you won't miss any future videos like this one. If you want to know more about the story behind how I became a consultant despite having bad grades and no relevant experience, then watch the video here. And if you want to know how it looks like a day in the life of a PwC consultant, then watch the video here. So it's kind of like a movie. So I was a bad student, but got the job. And then here's a day in my job. I'll talk to you in the next video. Ciao.